Afternoon, everyone. So I think broadly we've got a good number now signed up and started. So we will kick off. Thank you for coming along to today's webinar as part of our Sizewell C Supply Chain Business Support Programme. My name is actually Shorey-Mills. I'm the Head of Supply Chain Engagement here at the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce as part of the Sizewell C Supply Chain team. And I'll be doing just a brief introduction before we hand over to our speakers today. We have Jack Raven of Sizewell C. Adrian will hopefully be joining us. We're having some IT issues, but if not, Jack will be taking the entirety of the Sizewell C section. We then have Terry Baxter from Inspire, and we have Antony Parke from Access Community Trust stepping in from Emma Ratzer. So just quickly to get started, and before I touch on this slide, just kind of to explain why this subject, inspiring and investing in your local community. The legacy that Sizewell C has committed to is vast and quite wide-ranging. But really how we, as the business community in the East, play our part is critical in the success to Sizewell C and building the right type of legacy. You'll hear today why working in your communities, engaging with different groups can have a massive difference to organisations like Inspire and Access Community Trust. And they can make a massive difference to individuals, but also they can make a massive positive change to your business. So I won't touch on huge amounts about this because I know Terry and Antony will really kind of help understand how businesses can make a massive difference when working across communities. But as a Chamber of Commerce, we really want to ensure that Sizewell C helps us to grow this opportunity for as many people as possible, from as many parts of our society as we possibly can. We know from speaking to businesses, whether it's lack of resource, lack of people, there is massive challenges out there in the business landscape, and actually working with different community groups and different organisations from the norm is going to be key to the success of this project. Many of you will have been to our presentation, seen this slide before, but we always like to really re-emphasise the fact of what our themes are around this project. Working across the entirety of the East, ensuring that businesses from across those 6 counties really benefit from this project, that local businesses, local people, and a local skills initiative to really drive forward our region, particularly around working together. And again, that'll be something that comes across, I'm sure, today and through all of our webinars and all of our events, that actually collaboration is going to be the key to the success of Sizewell. But we must ensure the right legacy for our region, sustainable growth and sustainable opportunities for our businesses, so that we don't see issues of boom and bust, but also of overstretching. But actually a business community that's fit for the future growth that we're going to have in this region, both across the energy sector, but more broadly across some of the large-scale infrastructure projects that are on our horizon. Really making sure that we have a more diverse and inclusive workplace, and a workplace that is far more focused on health and well-being and cohesion across the community. And of course, fundamentally, Sizewell is a key part of the UK's 2050 net zero ambitions. And our coastline, as is well documented, commonly known as the energy coast, is critical for the UK in delivering on its net zero ambitions. And of course, there is that commitment. Part of the reason why we're doing our job is to help deliver on that £4.4 billion commitment through the supply chain for this region. There is lots of other commitments, and I won't touch them because I know Jack's going to mention them very soon, that were part of last week's announcement, that are also critical to this project and critical to the work the likes of Inspire and Access Community Trust will do. But on the supply chain, £4.5 billion coming through to businesses from Suffolk and the surrounding counties doesn't happen every day, and it's something we need to take full advantage of. And certainly as a Chamber of Commerce, we say that as our minimum expectation of what we want to get from this project. And of course, again, it's about building up for Sizewell, but building up for the other opportunities, be them in the nuclear sector or more widely across infrastructure. And social value is going to be that key deliverable for this project. So our remit within local supply chain fits into that top little honeycomb, increasing UK content, but actually across all of those 6 areas, to understand how we can create the right opportunity for businesses from Sizewell, that's not just a simple case of can you do the job and what's the cheapest price, actually doing far more from this project. And today, certainly those bottom 3 really will get touched on today through the conversations, how we optimize those opportunities, how we invest in people, and how we tackle some of the inequalities which sadly all too often take place. And as a final thing from me, before I hand over to Jack, just as a reminder, we're there to work with Sizewell on your behalf and try and support you as much as we can, and so also support Sizewell as much as we can to understand what's possible. But we are not doing this on our own. We're doing this with all the partners, and I've listed some of them around the outside there. So please, if you're in other organisations that have not engaged with us, if you're part of sector groups and business meeting forums, please get in touch with us. We want to talk to you. We want to help spread this opportunity from Sizewell as far and as wide across the East as we possibly can. We try and do as good a job as possible, but we can't do this on our own. So please make sure, keep reaching into us to enable us to reach into the project on your behalf so that we get the maximum benefit from Sizewell C. So with that in mind, I shall hand over to Jack Raven, let him introduce himself and then take on the Sizewell slides.
I won't start with introducing myself again. I'll just dive straight into this slide. So anyone who's new to the power station, new to Sizewell C, I just wanted to cover a quick bit of a background on what Sizewell C is. So a 3.2 gigawatt nuclear power station being built in East Suffolk, just next door to Leiston. You can see it in the picture there, what it's going to look like once built. You can see right next door is Sizewell B, which is currently on the skyline in East Suffolk there. Once operating, it's going to be running for at least 60 years. You might have seen in the news recently some power stations getting life extensions. We'd hope for the same for Sizewell C, so it could be with us for more than 60 years. It's a very close replica of Hinkley Point C, which is currently under construction down in Somerset. For anyone following nuclear project news around the country. Nuclear is a critical component to our long-term commitment to net zero. So the government has a commitment for net zero by 2050. That's going to require an awful lot of more low carbon electricity, a lot more electricity in general, actually, as we electrify a lot of things on the grid, such as transport, heating, and obviously population growth and everything aside. We're expecting probably by 2050 to have double the demand of today's electricity. So we're going to need an awful lot more wind, solar, and critically nuclear. The government now has a commitment to around 25 gigawatts. And as I said, Sizewell C is just going to be 3.2 gigawatts of that. Now, in this presentation, we're going to talk a lot about commitments to the local community, also national commitments, but quite importantly, how we're investing in, or how we expect to invest in young people, local communities, and have those kind of really big benefits that a large infrastructure project hopefully brings to an area. So if we go on to the next slide, please, I'll just briefly talk about the project timeline. So those that have been following for a little while, the development consent order, which is our planning permission, went in the end of 2020. We had that approved in July 2022, and very, very recently, last week, in fact, we triggered that planning consent last Monday, which means that we're now in the construction period, which is a really good transition point for the project. Everything leading up to this point, for anyone who's very local to site, would have seen some early work. So at the end of Sizewell Road at King George's Avenue, there's a temporary construction area going in there. The site itself has seen a lot of site clearance, archaeologists, a lot of kind of preparatory works, which we've been doing ahead of our planning consent being triggered. What that meant last week is that a lot of our deed of obligation commitments to local communities, the Suffolk local authorities, that all kicked in last week. So it's a quite an exciting transition point for the project. And, we're now within that 9 to 12 year window for construction, which we expect to peak between sort of 27, 28. We're expecting a final investment decision, so that's who the investors of the project will be by the end of this year. We say within this Parliament, so as many people will be aware, we've got a general election on the horizon. So within this current government, we expect to take that final investment decision. It's going to be minority owned by EDF and the UK government, and we expect a lot of private investment, pension funds and the like, institutional investors to come aboard. That process is currently ongoing, talking to those investors who they're going to be right now. So, and I've already mentioned the operational phase there, 60 years plus. So if we go on to the next slide, please, just talk a little bit about ESG commitments. So ESG is environmental, social and governance. And as it says on the slide, it's a framework used for measuring and evaluating those non-financial performances of an organisation, of a project, of a business. Our private investment community is going to expect us to report in ESG terms and to have high performance across those. It's absolutely core to our project. As I said, it's UK government has those same kind of commitments to social value that private finance community does as well, and they want to see us doing good for the environment, doing good for people, particularly investing in the local community. So doing more in that area helps the investability of our project and demonstrates those benefits not only to the wider UK, the wider supply chain, but also locally. So we're embedding that environmental, social, governance factors into the project. We've got a strapline which sits across the whole project, which is doing the power of good for Britain, and we can obviously tweak that to say doing the power of good for Suffolk, doing the power of good for Lowestoft. Very much there's 5 strategic aims that sit underneath that describe how we are doing the power of good. And those are shown on screen there as those 5 strategic aims. As you can imagine, nuclear safety and environmental management is kind of paramount for projects like this. Our regulators, the ONR, the Office for Nuclear Regulation, and the Environment Agency, 2 really key statutory stakeholders that expect us to operate the project in a certain way, and we'll have their own measures and reporting in place. But below that kind of describes everything else that we're doing, and we expect our supply chain to help us achieve these things. So net zero excellence, all about reducing carbon emissions, perhaps even trialling and furthering net zero technologies, ensuring the project is affordable and investable. So, as the points above state, it's certain things that we'll have to do to make sure that the investment community is content to invest in the project and the money is available to pay for the build. Very much maximising UK content, local content, but furthering the levelling up agenda as well. So one of those government strategic aims, ensuring investment around the country, this region and Suffolk. Investment in infrastructure is a really big kind of target that we're helping to support or hoping to help to support. And then finally, Ashley touched on it at the top, is that social value word, having a real legacy benefit to this local region. So a lot of what we try and do as a project, the way that we run the project, has one eye on legacy benefit, and Ashley used that great term boom and bust. It's not something that we're looking to experience with this project. Anything, the investment that we expect to see now throughout this kind of intensive construction period, we want to see as kind of seeding long-term legacy rewards. So there's a real kind of sense of growth in this region, and that lasts well into operation and beyond, and has a kind of real generational change for communities and people who in some way experience the outputs of this project. A little bit at the bottom there, you might have heard ESG in terms of sustainability. There is a link between the two. Sustainability is that broader principle, but it means kind of the same thing. It's all about people, environment, and economics as well. So if we move on to the next slide, please. Just wanted to talk a little bit about our wider project commitments. So these are some of the ones that some of the numbers that you would have seen on Ashley's slides at the top. So very much looking to power a number of homes and businesses with low carbon electricity, and then investment across the region. So 4.4 billion was on Ashley's slide there for the east of England, 2 billion in Suffolk. We've got commitments to the north and to Wales as well, but that's the numbers on the right hand side really describe some of the numbers that you'll be expecting from this project. So the avoidance of around 9 million tonnes annually of carbon emissions, a massive 70% UK construction spend, a large portion of that obviously coming to this region. 70,000 UK jobs, 1,500 apprenticeships, and 19% biodiversity net gain. Just putting out a few of those numbers there, but they're kind of really big numbers but they're quite transformational. That this project hopes to create that really big change. And if we go on to the next slide, it kind of breaks down those numbers into something, into a bit more kind of terms of social value. So you've got across the top there sort of 5 different areas with all of our projects, and with the contracts that we procure through this project. There'll be a minimum 10% of weighting on tendering evaluation for social value. So that's a minimum that can go up. Social value is a really important factor of the project. It'll be in balance with obviously technical competency and commercial competency or commercial performance of the tendering process. As it says there on I'll go through not all of the boxes on the right hand side, but some of the headers there. Increasing UK content. Of course, I mentioned on the previous slide that's we've got a bit of a hierarchy of maximising local first, then regional, and then national to try and meet that 70% commitment. We've got an awful lot of commitments to the local community, and our supply chain teams are starting to get their head around that now, understanding what the capacities there is through thanks to the work really of the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce and Ashley's team, and really highlighting some of those businesses that can help us achieve this project, help us build it in the right way, where the kind of local specialisms and competencies fit into our program. We're getting a much clearer picture now of what the whole program for the project looks like now. So it really helps then matching that to skills and availability in this region particularly. Investment in employment education skills. So again, the more the people side of the project, I mentioned that 1,500 commitment to new apprenticeships. They'll be enabled by this project. A lot of those will be in our supply chain, of course. Internships, T-levels, all things that give people and a lot of these young people as well opportunities for employment. We expect to be a really large employer, obviously, in this region. Lots of local people on the project, and I'll come on to that in a little bit later. Very much in terms of reducing our environmental impact, that's obviously very important. One of the previous webinars that I appeared on was talking about carbon. You'll hear that an awful lot about kind of minimization of carbon emissions and ways to reduce carbon emissions in construction. Water, we're in a very dry region, and anything we could do to reduce our consumption of potable water is obviously important there. Optimizing the opportunities for local people. So we've had some, really quite long-term commitments now with local organisations, a couple of which you'll hear from later on. So I won't talk too much about that. And then looking at kind of our ED&I commitments, diversity and inclusion, how we make sure that we provide social mobility for people locally. Gender balance is a really big nuclear sector target, which is looking by the end of 2030 to have 40% women in nuclear roles. Physical and mental health and well-being as well, obviously very important, and looking to invest in organisations and communities and help the betterment of physical and mental health in this area would be a really good outcome of this project. So that describes a little bit of some of the things we mean by social value and how we expect what kind of outcomes they might be. If we move on to the next slide, I want to just focus in a little bit on community commitment. So anyone who's been following the project really closely will be aware of our 12 key local commitments. I've pulled out a couple of these that relate to the topics of today that we're talking about. So those are invest in local employment education skills and enhance the economic, social and environmental well-being of local communities. So, we've got 12 wider commitments that go beyond these, but very much what we've been trying to do as a project and the team that I work in and what the organisation is setting up to do is to make sure that the way that we run the project is for the benefit of the community. We do what we said we're going to do. So our planning consent is very detailed in the way that we are supposed to, get people to site, how we should build certain facilities, the timescales of some of those construction projects. We basically want to do what we said we were going to do, make sure we do right by our commitments to the community. I'm sure you'll be able to find the 12 wider commitments to the local community online. They're on our website, and it's something that we expect to be held to the way that we run the project. I won't touch too much on the work we've been doing with the third sector organisations, but because we're going to be hearing from a couple of them on this webinar, but we've been working with the third sector to achieve our ambitions for a very long time. Our consultation period runs right back until 2012. We wouldn't be able to meet our commitments to local employment, to local people, without working with some of these local organisations. So I'm really pleased that they're both on the webinar today to tell you a little bit about how you can work with them, the things that they do, the outcomes that they have been able to deliver through the work they do to really great organisations. It's with our supply chain that we hope to do more of that work, basically. So I won't touch too much on that at the moment, but it's yes, very much an important arm of what we expect to do in the local community going forward as well. And just as I suppose to say, if there's things that you think you'd like to do to contribute in this space, do get in touch with Ashley and the team. Do get in touch with myself and the wider regional external affairs and development team. We're very much keen to be the links to these local organisations to kind of create these outcomes, and together we will help achieve the ambitions that I set out, the project commitments, the local commitments that we made. It's very much through these relationships. So if we move on to the next slide, I just wanted to focus in on some local community benefits. So I mentioned some workforce numbers. We expect, very much at least a third of the workforce on site to come from the local area. So at peak, that's around 2,500 people working on site. the figures there are kind of annual investment figures through construction spend or through operation spend for the £40 million a year. Once operating, there'll be 900 people working on the operating power station. And those are familiar with Sizewell B, you'll know at the moment all of their workforce, I think it's about 700 of them are within a 25-mile radius of the site. So yeah, they're all local people as well. We've got more than 2,000 businesses now working on the supply chain portal. So engaging with Ashley's team. And that number is growing as people hear about Sizewell C, as they see themselves fitting in with delivering Sizewell C. So it's really getting local businesses now in tune with the project and understanding what the opportunity is. I mentioned earlier on the deed of obligation. That's a kind of £250 million package really, which is sort of other financial mitigation really for this large project. It covers things in tourism, in transport, in environment. It's a really big commitment of this kind to the local community that we've got an agreement with the Suffolk County Council and East Suffolk Council. I won't go into too much detail on that, but it's something that you can find online. It's a really big thing which has just come into place now that we've triggered the development consent order and the planning consent. I've now got a couple of examples. If we go on to the next slide, please. A couple of ways that us as Sizewell C have been engaging with the local community. Firstly was our Sizewell C Community Day. I've not got a picture of him there, but Terry, very grateful to have Terry appear on this event and spoke a little bit about Inspire, as I'm sure he's going to do on this webinar next. So we kind of, this is an opportunity to bring local third sector organisations together with us as a business, with our Sizewell C networks as well, so the employee networks, and start talking about the opportunities in Suffolk for things like volunteering, for investment, for our neighbourhood fund and things that where finance would be required. We're actually going to be running another one of these in February this year, so it's just about to go into people's calendars, and it's something we'll continue to do to engage with the local community and this specific part of the local community. That we also have education partners there. The last event was held at University of Suffolk down in Ipswich, and it's a way that we can kind of link in with the community and help us to sort of talk to the community about how we go about achieving our aims, how we kind of tackle the sort of social challenges that there are that we're looking to overcome in a kind of Suffolk context as well. So if we go on to the next slide, this just talks about our social partners MOU. So again, this is a kind of document that we had signed in the middle of last year. There's actually a picture at the Suffolk show last year where we got some of our partners together. There's Terry again. So we're seeing a lot of him today. This is where we wrote down on paper, what we hope to do with these local third sector organisations, and if things like they could develop into funds, they could develop into programs. A couple of examples that have come out of the back of this memorandum of understanding is community hubs with Project 21. Their chief is pictured in that picture there. Work placements for people who are a little bit further away from the workplace, giving them experience opportunities with us, skills centres, lots of different opportunities like that. And it's just a way of us kind of, again, having that direct dialogue with organisations. Helps us to understand how we want to achieve social benefit, social value and change through our project, our people. And we're working with the organisations that know exactly how to tackle that. We'd really much like our supply chain to help us further with this, and that's what this webinar is about, to kind of do more than just what Sizewell C has done to date. Our supply chain will have an even greater reach, make more connections with the local community, create more investment opportunities and more opportunities for people. So finally, for me, on to the next slide, please. Just a kind of summary really to say Suffolk and this region, Norfolk and Essex and wider have some great organisations that are really experts in tackling challenges that local people face, and they don't always have the investment to do the kind of great work that they'd like to do. So we're going to continue to commit to working with organisations, and we'd ask our supply chain to do the same. Business engagement is really key to all of those things on slide there. So levelling up social value, and I mentioned at the start that kind of by investing now, we have a kind of opportunity to create a really long-lasting legacy in this region. So it's something we'd like to do. A few of those organisations are pictured on the right-hand side of the slide there, but there's many more not pictured there as well, which are doing some really great work locally. I think I'll stop there, and I will introduce Terry to tell you a little bit more specifically about what Inspire do, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, and good afternoon, everyone. Really grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you this afternoon. So we're on to the next slide. This is me. I'm going to try and just, I wonder if I can recreate that pose. Not sure why they put that photograph in. I'll sort of look off wistfully into the future. I'm Terry Baxter. I'm Chief Exec of Inspire, and in a bit I'm going to talk to you about the charity and some of the work that we do, and how I think perhaps you may be able to help, and how you can help get involved and support not only the local community but the work that Sizewell C has started. I'm going to go on beforehand though to just hear a really good example, because it's great hearing me wittering away, but actually I think it's always better to hear the stories of those that we work with. So let's start this presentation by hearing Bella's story.
I'd left school. I went to Otley College to do an equine course, and I had a few jobs working with horses, where I then had a really bad experience being bullied, and I lost all my confidence. I couldn't actually leave the house for about 6 months. I was terrified of everyone. I couldn't speak to a single person. I wouldn't speak to anyone on the phone. I had an eating disorder as well. So I wasn't eating, I was getting really skinny, and yeah, I just couldn't sort of function properly. I wanted to go out, but I was too nervous, and that's when I found Inspire and decided to join their team programme. Team programme is a programme set for young people aged 16 to 25 who are struggling with confidence. I think on the website they called it Confidence Boost, which is exactly what it is. So during the programme, I think the highlight has to be the residential trip, because that was, for me personally, that was so scary, having not being able to go out, talk to a single person, to then being pushed into this residential trip with a bunch of people you don't know, and doing all these team activities to sort of bring you together. I found it so daunting at the end, but it was the best thing I've ever done. The lessons I've taken from team programme was definitely trusting people again, being able to communicate with people again, and being able to talk to people on the phone was a huge thing that I couldn't do, and after the programme I could do. Since team programme, I got given the opportunity to become plumbing apprentice with my uncle, who's a plumber, and it went from there. I did a year on the tools, learning how to do the job, and then I started my apprenticeship at college, and soon I'll be a fully qualified gas engineer. I'm a completely different person. I've got really good customer service. I enjoy going to work every day and meeting new people, learning new things every day. Inspire helped me to get from having no confidence to being able to go out and find something that I really love doing. Any support that you give to these sort of programs, such as team program, it gives so much to young people like myself, like so many other young people struggling out there, and without the team program and Inspire, I wouldn't be where I am today.
So Inspire is a dedicated youth charity. We've been going, and we'll go on to the next slide for this one actually. We've been going for 10 years as Inspire, and based in Suffolk. We work a bit into South Norfolk and a little bit into North Essex. And what do? Well, we support young people. You'll hear people like young people like Bella. We've got a few more young people telling the story a little bit later on, but you'll hear them tell their story. And for many of them, they're just waiting to take that next step, positive step in their lives, but they don't know how to. They don't know why there's a problem, but we're here to support. And I'll talk about some of the programs that we're involved in that helps in that regard. You know, we're talking today, and Access are talking today, but there are you know, many charities across and organisations across Suffolk who are providing excellent support to young people and others. But you'll forgive me if I talk specifically about Inspire right now. If we go on to the next slide for a moment. So it looks like a load of fun for them, doesn't it, actually, for the young people that we work with? And in some cases it is, because what we're doing is we're working with young people, often who are furthest away from the jobs market or have dropped out of education. It can be through a number of reasons. It can be through family breakdown. It can be through a number of challenges in their lives, whether it's mental health challenges, whether it's just bad experience, like we were hearing in Bella. She had a bullying incident that actually threw her life into turmoil. And, you know, you might think, okay, well, that's only one or two people. It's hundreds and thousands of young people who are affected in this way. So to summarize it, we're mainly breaking down what we do into 6 areas. So youth work and outreach. So what does that mean? Well, we provide safe spaces for young people to gather, to be themselves, space for them to be engaged positively during the holiday season. We provide drop-in sessions for young people where they will have support from youth workers to actually deal with any particular challenges they have. And we do that in Ipswich, we do that in Lowestoft, in Hadley, in Suffolk, and through a mobile youth centre, which of course deals with the fact that we're living in very much a rural county. And so we will take the youth support out to where young people are. So where else are young people? Well, they're in school often, aren't they? And so we will support schools with those who are perhaps in danger of becoming disengaged. And we use a number of different tools to engage them. Maybe sport, could be our listening service. It could be a whole range of activities to engage with young people. And increasingly, and worryingly, but it's very well publicised, one of the big issues is the health and well-being of our young people. We're getting huge numbers who present themselves on programme. I've been chief exec here 17 years this year, and it's unrecognisable the number of challenges that young people are presenting with now on our programmes compared to 6 months ago, to 2 years ago, to 5 years ago, to 10 years ago. Young people are dealing with so many more issues. They're also, and this is a positive thing, feeling able to ask for help now and expect there to be support available to them. So we have our wellbeing service that has trained therapists working with young people, free to end user support, and we are helping thousands of young people across Suffolk each year, and it's something I'm incredibly proud of and something we will continue to do. It's great to hear somebody online who is, I think their son I just picked up, who is using the Hadley service that we provide. So thank you for letting us know. That's really really positive to hear from you. Youth development. Well, we talked a little bit about that with Bella's story. In her case, we run a 12-week Prince's Trust qualification called the TEAM programme. It works on social development for young people, making them able to engage with others, to understand how to interact with others, to get the best out of each other, to engage in community projects, to work on a work readiness. So that can be through employability training, interviewing. It can be through one-to-one mentoring, adult mentoring, really important. A lot of the young people who come on programme, for one reason or another, will not have a positive adult support mechanism around them. So we will help link individuals, or in some cases businesses, to those individuals in a bid to help them make good choices as they come through. If you think that at 16 you could be thrown out of the family home, you could be in social housing, you can have some support there, but not huge numbers of positive role models around you often. And it's little wonder that in some cases young people make bad decisions. So it's hard enough actually with all the support around you to make good decisions. So we're here to help in that regard. We run short work-ready programs as well, step up into different sectors. And that's something that may be of interest to businesses who are watching this today, in as much as we may be able to work with you to try and actually capture some of these young people to come in to your particular sector. We also run a youth employment service across the county, and that's particularly tailored to young people. We work with DWP and other organisations to make sure that young people who engage with us have start a journey and progress on a journey with us throughout both getting into work readiness mode, getting into interview mode, into work, and then developing their careers within work. So we're there as a continuous employment support service for young people around here. And as part of that, it's really important to offer young people unique experiences to try and actually create some excitement in their lives. I don't know about many of you watching this today. You may not be as old as an old duffer like me, but when I left school, I wasn't aware of the opportunities that were available to me. It was, you're going to work in a bank, or you're going to work in an office, or you're going to work on a building site, or it was a very narrow approach to career progression. I wasn't bright enough then. I'm still not bright enough to go to university. But in terms of career opportunities, it was very narrow. Now, I was quite lucky in my own personal case because I had a supportive family around me and a connected family, so they could actually say to a contact, look, Terry's may be interested in this. Could you show him some examples of that? And so I got to go and experience some different work opportunities. That's not always available to young people. And one particular company who we've worked with, not relating to Sizewell C specifically, but actually we've worked with on helping young people develop their employability, was Fred Olsen Cruise Lines. You may have heard of them. And actually, we took a group of young people down to Southampton, where one of their brand new cruises was docked overnight. The young people stayed on board overnight and had exposure to a huge number of front of house and behind the scenes opportunities that could be available to them, as well as going around the world, should they wish to take that. Now, I can't tell you the amount of excitement and eye-opening that there was from young people, some of whom had never left Suffolk, who were taken away on a coach to stay overnight on a cruise line, to say, look, this could be something that you should consider. And that's what we like to create throughout the different organisations that we work with, the opportunity to really see that actually you don't have to look at narrow opportunities. There are lots of opportunities available to you. Now, I said earlier, I've been here a long time as chief exec, and I've worked with the guys from Sizewell C for probably, I don't know, the best part of 12 years, really. And I've been a huge supporter of the programme because I believe it provides a huge opportunity for young people and families, not just young people, but in my case, I'm interested in young people, to actually take some positive steps with their social mobility opportunities. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you've been a second generation unemployed family in Lowestoft, and you're not sure that this new development on the coast a little bit further down in Suffolk has a benefit to you, we want to show that it absolutely does. There will be a number of career opportunities, both at entry level and building throughout. And we want to make sure, and it was always my contention when we worked with Sizewell, that everybody needs to be able to see that they've got an opportunity to progress. So it doesn't matter whether you're going into a higher level qualification or apprenticeship. If you are coming in at entry level or actually wanting to progress from that, then we want to show that there's a career path opportunity for you, both with Sizewell and, more importantly now, of course, with the supply chain. And that's why we're talking to you today. So I'd like you to think about that. Let's go on to the next slide while we do that, actually, if that's okay. So how can you help? Well, I've talked a little bit about it. Career days, work experience opportunities, really important to us. But can I start by bottom up? Charities often feel a little bit awkward in asking for donations, but I'm going to be unapologetic in that regard. The work that we do, and other charities like us in our county, relies on funding. There's no bones about it. We don't have the benefit of government backing or other private funding. We have to raise our own funds to deliver the sort of work that I've been talking about today. Make no apologies for that. So, number one, cash is really king in the world of the third sector, and I'm pretty sure that nearly every charity that had the opportunity to speak to you today would say the same thing. But let's go back to the other things. Career days, work experience, really important. Talked earlier about young people getting an opportunity to see whether the job is right for them, the opportunities that are available to them. We can work with you on that, both do that in-house with our groups, or we can come to you. Really like the opportunity to come to you. Now, I know I'll hear the usual comment from a number of employers and businesses. It'll be all work experience is really difficult, really time consuming. We're worried about risk assessments. We're worried about this. We're worried about that. They're not insurmountable. And one of the reasons I think you should do it is we know at the moment we're struggling to get hold of employees for businesses across the country in many ways. So, fewer people looking for more jobs. So we can help create a workforce for you, but you need to work with us on that and provide some support as well. Staff volunteering. Get your staff in. I talked about mentoring. I talked about the work readiness training opportunities. They're all important, really important. Or get your workforce to actually embrace the work that we're doing and to actually get involved in fundraising. One thing I haven't put on there, because I wanted to just talk to you about it specifically, is really looking at the next slide. I'm testing you now. Brilliant. Okay, so you can help us as the charity operate. We have three centres, I should say. We have three centres. We have our main office in Ipswich, which is a large former secondary school building, or part of a large secondary school building. We have a former primary school youth hub in Lowestoft, and we have a youth drop-in centre in Hadley in Suffolk. I always talk about them being like the Forth Bridge. Maintenance, big drain on our organisation. Really looking to actually get support to help us maintain and keep the upkeep of our centres right. Because one of the things I did say when I first came into the centres, and the one in Ipswich we have been in now, this is our 11th year. It was the first one we moved into, and I said and it's in an area of deep deprivation. Actually, it's in the top 10% of deprived wards in the country. And I said, I don't want young people who come in here to feel that. I want them to feel as if they're coming into a centre of value, that they are valued, that they're invested in. And so if we can get support in doing that, that would be great. So whether that's workforce coming in, whether it's donating supplies, whatever it is, I'd be really interested in hearing from you in that regard to get that support. I'm seeing some questions come through. I think we're going to pick those up a little bit later on, so I'm not going to cover that off right now, but I really do appreciate your questions, and I'd love to get them to come through. So I hope that gives you an overview and what we're looking for. I'm about fair play, and I think if you're actually watching this today, you probably share that value. I don't care where somebody comes from. I don't care what their family background is. I don't even really care what they've been up to this point. What I'm really interested in is their potential and how we can help them fulfill that. And we can do so much more if we have more support from organisations like you. And here's your opportunity with the supply chain and the social investment in the local community. Skills, education, inequality. Yeah, that ticks my boxes. I hope it ticks your boxes. And if it does, then I think together we really can be the power of good for Suffolk, a little bit of North Suffolk, I don't mind sharing. South Norfolk, I should say, don't mind sharing. A little bit of North Essex, very happy to share there. My main interest is making sure that Suffolk doesn't lose out on this huge opportunity. And to illustrate why, I'm going to end up with our next slide, which is another film of some of our young people who we've worked with over the years. Thank you for watching. I'll let others pick up off the back of this presentation, but we're here and I really would like your help. Thank you.
I found myself starting to withdraw quite a bit from people around me because my own mental health was sort of deteriorating. Like, I was struggling with self-harm, I was having suicidal thoughts. Yeah, I was having suicidal thoughts. As I said, I was self-harming. I didn't really talk to anyone. I found it hard to open up to people.
I was in a really dark place. I had a lot of panic attacks almost daily. I also had a constant fear of like people talking, and just trying to get out of the house was very, very difficult.
I was quite pessimistic, I guess. I didn't really know what to do, so I was kind of stuck, I guess. I felt stuck. That was probably the main thing.
I was becoming fearful. I started having panic attacks. I couldn't even do my job because my brain wouldn't concentrate on the tasks. So eventually it got even worse to the point that I was suicidal.
My day-to-day basically consisted of me just surviving through the day, if that makes sense. Like just getting up, just sort of not really speaking to anyone, just sort of doing my own thing. Hurting myself quite regularly, as I said. Hurting myself quite regularly and yeah, not really speaking to anyone, just sort of withdrawing and just, yeah, it just consisted of me basically just trying to survive through the day.
Without the program, I'd probably still be in my room, not knowing what to do, not having the confidence to succeed in interviews, still feeling stuck.
When my suicidal thoughts got quite bad, it was a case of, I don't know if I'm going to act upon this. Like, I was really, really scared. That's when I decided, you know what, I really need to nip this in the bud right now, because I don't want to be another statistic. I want to be someone who has survived this.
Since having counselling with wellbeing, I haven't had a panic attack since, and hopefully I won't ever have them again.
I was nervous, I found it a little bit difficult to open up, but once I got in there I found it was a little bit more easier, because obviously the person that I was talking to was very kind, considerate. She let me take it at my own pace.
Inspire helped me to build my confidence and get a job that I'd always wanted.
I'm in quite a positive mindset right now. Like, I can see a future ahead of me instead of a brick wall. And basically, I just feel so much better. I mean, I feel like I could take on the world.
Wellbeing and Inspire are just fantastic. I couldn't fault them at all. They've been absolutely brilliant with me, and honestly, I can't say anything more than that. I just want to say thank you for the help that you've given me.
Good afternoon, everybody. We'll try and battle through the gremlins, hopefully. For those that were expecting Emma Ratzer, my CEO, I do apologise for that. Her illness at the 11th hour has very much brought me to the forefront of today's presentation. I do have a video for you, but I'm just going to very quickly go through some elements of Access Community Trust first, and also just make note to Terry. We work very closely with Inspire, and just to see some of those stories, obviously, every third sector organisation has really powerful stories, but that really does touch what we're all about as a sector and as individual organisations. And it's fantastic to see the young people that you're working with really kind of moving forward and thriving in tough conditions. So it's excellent to work alongside both you and the broader Sizewell C team. So Access Community Trust didn't start life off as Access Community Trust. It started life off as St John's Housing Trust in 1975 in Lowestoft. And as much as we hear today about the impact of Brexit, the introduction of the UK into the common market in 1975 brought huge change to our fishing industry. And Lowestoft, like many other seaside ports, was very, very reliant on fishing. And when the common market kicked in and the fishing industry started to ebb away, no pun intended, the impact was extremely significant. And Lowestoft had lots of people directly and indirectly connected to the fishing industry. And as much as Sizewell C has the ability to be Suffolk's World Cup, if you like, then we need to make sure that afterwards that it's more like the Millennium Stadium rather than the stadium that I was reading about the other day, which was where the final was held in Greece, and that stadium is in somewhat of disrepair. And I think, using a football analogy, what we do with Sizewell C has the ability to be one or the other, and we have to get this right. And we have to get this right, not just for today, but also for tomorrow. And people talk lots about legacy, but genuinely it's up to the individuals that are listening to these presentations today to really put their stamp on things and work out what legacy they want themselves to leave behind, as well as their organisation. So back in 1975, we saw quite a lot of families all of a sudden struggling financially. And in those scenarios, some people rely on family support, but others rely on substances, particularly alcohol at that time. And we saw a number of people that were unable to sustain their rent payments or their relationships and a number of different things. And that led to a number of homeless people in Lowestoft. And at that point, St John's Housing Trust had a chat with the local church. And in essence, the local church provided space for people to be able to bed down in the evening. And that is very much how St John's Housing Trust started, and indeed moved forward into the 80s. Like many other seaside towns, as much as it lost its fishing industry, it wasn't able to rebuild other industries. And so the consequences of the lack of fishing trade continued to see real social problems, and certainly homelessness continued to rise into the 80s. And indeed, the problem got so bad, that the Five Centre, which is a homeless shelter in Lowestoft, was the first purpose-built homeless shelter in Europe. Now, there's lots of accolades one would want, but that certainly isn't one of them. And that really kind of typifies the scenarios of what was going on in Lowestoft at the time. And as we go into the 90s, homelessness becomes much more of a problem, not just in Lowestoft, but across the nation. And certainly there's a bit more government support and local council support that went into providing support around homelessness. As we go into the 2000s, as an organisation, we recognised, like many others, that we needed to diversify. But it wasn't just purely about diversification. We started to look at preventative measures. How do we support people before they're homeless? because that surely has to be the most logical way forward. And as part of focusing on those preventative strategies, the organisation started to grow and come up with different ideas and work in conjunction with many partners, statutory and other third sector organisations, to the point that St John's Housing Trust no longer became relevant in a name, and that was the birth of Access Community Trust. As we move around 2010, those preventative strategies that we employed within our homeless hostels began to grow themselves, if you like, and we were able to launch them as their own services, funded by various parts and very kind local individuals and organisations. We were able to grow them into their own services and have them out in the community. And that's where we really start to see the beginnings of some really significant work done with youth groups around engagement, around involvement, around giving a child or a youth somewhere where they could go and talk about their experiences in the day. And Terry's video was really powerful around how young people can struggle, and certainly young people do struggle, and they don't always get the support that other people get, whether that be at home or with their peers, especially with the issues of bullying and mental health that exist. So we really started to understand and provide much more of a youth provision to work alongside our adult provision. And what became really clear there was a distinct lack of aspiration and a real belief that young people could be someone and something. And some of the stories that I remember listening to from young people whose parents had been unemployed, and in some respects their grandparents, so you're talking to third generation unemployed, there was absolutely no link that they felt with themselves, their local community, and hopes and aspirations of the future. And that's actually really quite strong, because we all have to deal in one way or another, directly or indirectly, with things related to gangs and things related to antisocial behaviour, etc., etc. But it's those sorts of things that happen when fundamentally our communities are broken, either totally or in places. And just being able to provide young people with a place to go where they can relax, talk, gain support has been really powerful, because it allows us to understand what they need from and what their aspirations are, what they need in terms of their future, and how we marry that with what organisations need in terms of their future workforce. I think what's also really important is that we began to really seriously identify a customer journey that originally started off as homeless, that then kind of rewound back to the point that we were looking at people who were still very much actively engaged in education at 11 or 12. And we started to work, or try and work, with local employers at the time around giving those individuals a chance. And certainly the words that Terry echoed around some of the difficulties that employers faced with dealing with our typical target audience is not something that Terry alone in Inspire deals with. It's something that employers say to a lot of third sector organisations. And as an organisation, we're very inventive. So one of the things that we did as we entered into kind of the latter part of 2010s, or 2016 time, is that we decided that we were going to do this ourselves. And we launched some commercial enterprises so that we could be in control of opportunities for local people to become involved, to have workplace training, to understand work culture, to understand the difference of a workplace than a school place. And we very quickly worked with a number of young individuals and trained them at the time in one of our cafes. It was the first one we opened. Coffee culture was beginning to move forwards much more significantly. And as part of our cafe, we partnered with a local organisation, and we were able to offer a huge amount of work around coffee training, barista skills, customer service, point of service, tills, food hygiene, serving, you name it. We were all of a sudden able to give young people an opportunity that we could control that workplace within. And that gave us a real insight into what an employer needs to be able to provide in addition to what they would normally provide in order to really make that sort of mission work. You know, if you're really serious about giving people an opportunity, that it's important that you don't just set them up to fail. And often we find lots of organisations don't really fully understand the difficulties that an individual who may have been out of the workplace for a long time, or indeed going into the workplace for their first time, what struggles they have. The cafe itself was a really good success, massive success, and that led to the opening of others. And that also includes the fantastic cafe at the Waterways Boaton Lake in Great Yarmouth. So that's a site that we operate on behalf of GYBC, and we tend the gardens, do the cafe, the boats, everything around that area is undertaken by ourselves. And again, that provides people with massive opportunities to learn around gardening, around people, around all sorts of things to do with leisure. And it fundamentally allows them to then be able to move forward and secure their own jobs in the local community and go on to live truly independent lives in their community. One of the other things that we did also in our quest to identify entry-level jobs was that we also changed ourselves as an organisation a little bit. So whereas we would have subcontracted our cleaning, for example, we then started our own cleaning team. And again, that was very much around how can we provide more opportunities for young people and adults in our community to give them that foot on the ladder that lots of employers look for in terms of giving people opportunities and chance. We also started our own maintenance, and again, that allowed for apprenticeships within our maintenance team, and really gave people a chance not to be able to have one thing to pick like a cafe, but to be able to have a plethora of options, employment options that were there for them, and provide that aspiration. And of course, it only takes a few people to do really well for that news to travel, and for those individuals to then go to our youth clubs and talk about their experiences and the importance of doing certain things in what can be very difficult home circumstances and very, very difficult peer circumstances as well. And I think many of us in today's world forget the true power of peer groups, especially where someone doesn't necessarily have full support at home. Now, we'll see elements within the video later that will show as to how successful those sorts of things are. But to move forward into the 2020s, COVID, like many organisations, gave us all a little bit of an issue to deal with. And we're quite a resourceful and innovative organisation. So very quickly, for example, we changed our cafes, not just to provide at the door service, which was the thing at the time, but how do we go around providing meals into our local community? And we partnered with a couple of local organisations in order to make thousands of meals that went across Suffolk to our most deprived households. And many people forget that these deprived households were also people in work. We're not necessarily focusing on those that were so far away from the labour market or those that were homeless. We all will know colleagues that struggled immensely during COVID, especially financially. And many of them would have either had struggles with furlough payments down to 80%, or indeed would have struggled with the homeschooling elements, the mental health of children, the mental health of themselves, trying to conduct meetings like this while trying to homeschool at the time. And we actually spoke to our IT provider at the time, who were able to donate some second-hand computers that we use to distribute across the communities, where if people were homeschooling and there was only one computer at home, how they dealt with their Zoom call while their children were also supposed to be online. And again, it's that wider sense of being able to come together as a community where we could talk with organisations that we had relationships with around some of the troubles and how they stepped forward. We also continue to spread our cafes, but we very specifically tried determinedly to make mental health more acceptable. And we opened 4 mental health cafes that are very much on the high street. People talk all the time around stigma of mental health, and one of the things that we wanted to do was to try and move that stigma to one side and actually have something there in the high street that people could access that was very visible around how someone can walk in, whether that be on their lunch hour or whether that be because they've woken up that morning and they're just fed up of the continual life that they have. Many cases of unfortunately sexual abuse and addictions and other things come to the fore when we're talking about people's mental health. And I think one of the things that we were surprised with, even in the world that we work and live in, is truly the number of young people and adults that have significant trauma that all want to move forward and be something in their lives. So here we are in the now, if you like. So we provide those mental health services on the high street. We provide beds to more or less 200 individuals across Norfolk and Suffolk on any given night. We also work very closely with those who either choose to rough sleep or are in a situation where they're unable to gain a bed for the night, which is unfortunately the case. We also work with people who, to all intensive purposes, aren't able to contact the likes of DWP and other support provisions because they've previously made threats or have done one thing or another within those establishments. So we will often work as a go-between, as a liaison in those scenarios. Over the last couple of years, we've also identified within our communities a lack of support for our older persons, and I think that's very often forgotten. So we have taken on both the Lowestoft over 60s and the Beccles over 55 clubs. And in talking with the individuals that go to those buildings, what's really clear is how people are still having a financial issue in retirement, how some of them want to go back to work, and how some of them feel, in a very general sense, that their working life is over and no one will want them. And we all know that's not the case, but we do work with individuals who go to those clubs to support them back into work. I think the key thing is also about recognising, having employed our own customers, how vital it is that we work alongside partners to make sure that we don't just provide opportunity, we maintain those opportunities. And for lots of our individuals who live and work, live in chaotic environments, they can have off days. But I think it's also vital to understand that we all have off days. And sometimes with a bit of support, people can become incredibly loyal. And certainly in today's labour market, it's so difficult to recruit the right staff that when you've got them, you really want to keep them. And I think it's important for us to understand what, as organisations, we need to do to maintain our own staff and the support around those staff. And it's one of the things as an organisation we're really good at, because one of the things that we've been able to identify is that the support that our customers need today is typically the support that everybody will need in 10 years' time. If we look at all of the work that every employer is doing around mental health, the options and availability of support within organisations around mental health now is very typical of what we were providing our customers with 10 years ago. And I think one of the key things for organisations to recognise is that actually, if they look at what we're providing as a support now, it's definitely an opportunity to look into the future in terms of how your employers or employees might need support in the future. One of the key things also is that being able to provide support for individuals in an independent sense is also really useful. And we've worked with other partners and other organisations about being able to give their workforce a listening ear. And I know HR departments in organisations are very strong and supportive, but equally sometimes people don't want to talk to their HR departments. And having something that is independent and something that might not filter back, or at least there's no fear that it might filter back, is a really positive environment to have. I think when organisations talk to charities, as Terry kind of said, it's very much around, well, how can we help you? And what I want people to take from today is not just how you can help us, but how we can help you. And partnerships work when people get something from both sides. Terry's absolutely right, cash is king, but equally everything that we have to do takes money from our front line. We've been incredibly grateful to organisations who have covered the rent of a van for a year, for example. You know, we have van lease deals. For an organisation to contribute towards that allows us to put more money to the front line. And certainly we offer a assistance scheme package in conjunction with Norfolk County Council that delivers emergency food boxes across Norfolk. And the costs of vans are a considerable cost to what we deliver in that project. An organisation that was able to help us with a year's lease on a van allowed us to deliver another 550 boxes into the community with that cash saving alone. So it's not just about cash, it's about provision. We're very lucky to have a youth base in Bury St Edmunds that was gifted in terms of the lease for a couple of years. Those sorts of things allow us to go and explore what our communities really need and allow us to then put the support measures in place to be able to go through and deliver that. I think it's also important for organisations to understand that charities don't like standing with a begging bowl, for want of a better phrase. But money is really important now. Money within our sector is diminishing. We're coming into an election year, which normally means some savings being made from central government and local authorities ready for either tax cuts or otherwise. And therefore, money is really tough for us right now. We're seeing a number of commissioning authorities, the NHS, all having to deal with significant wage increases with the same budget, which fundamentally means budget cuts for the likes of what we're trying to provide. We're also seeing the cost of living squeezes, which means the costs attributed to what we have to pay our staff increase considerably. And time is really, really difficult. And therefore, anything that you can do as an organisation, I'd echo Terry's words around, you know, even sometimes just being able to come in and help us paint a building or being able to provide the paint for those sorts of things makes a massive difference. And one of the things that we desperately don't want to do is see a rundown of things like our housing stock because we can't afford to paint them, because that's critical to mental health and it's critical for people to be proud of where they live, and it's important for them to be proud of the organisation that helps support them as much as we are proud of them. Other funders have provided educational support both for ourselves as staff and our colleagues, and we've worked very closely with organisations who have got a very specific set of entry-level requirements that if we can support people to meet, then they will guarantee them an interview. Other organisations have done things to help through their HR departments with interview support and, you know, insight days into businesses. And there's a huge amount that as businesses we can all provide. But the trick is that we understand what each other needs and that we're able to design something that truly delivers that to the benefit of all. Now, you'll be pleased, or I'm pleased, one or the other, that my time is just drawing towards an end. But certainly it's been fantastic to be able to talk individually or to you collectively. Hopefully we can talk individually later. I know the contact details will be shared for those that want to make contact with either Terry or myself. And Ashley, if you can cue the video, then I'll leave that to close my presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, I'm Joshua Fremantle and I'm the development producer of Sunrise Studios at Access Community Trust, and I just wanted to give a brief preview of my journey and how I've been supported within Access.
This week's Dragons include Patrick Johnson, keen skateboarder and digital marketing apprentice, Dion Walton, Head of Young Persons Services, and CEO of Access, Emma Ratzer, MBE.
Hi, I'm Joshua Fremantle, and I'm here today to seek assistance and offer an opportunity to support my business plan for Sunrise Studios, a local production company that will be a social enterprise for the benefits of the wider community. Sunrise's vision is to spearhead homegrown creatives in our region and to build brighter horizons for those hard-to-reach local young people in our town and beyond, who have a passion for joining the creative experience through volunteering, education and employment. Sunrise Studios will achieve its goals of opening a creative school and workspace within Lowestoft. My pitch today seeks for Sunrise Studios to be welcome into Access Community Trust's successful social enterprise framework of community support as an ongoing concern. In return for experienced assistance for the Access team, an initial office space, mentoring, and chance to access a wider funding network.
Hello Joshua, thank you for pitching to us today. No, wrong show. So Joshua, tell me, what are you going to bring to Access Community Trust?
Through my passion and enthusiasm across the past 5 years of working as a cinematographer and seeing things through young eyes, I have first-hand knowledge of undertaking challenging workloads that require a quick turnaround. I have previously volunteered and worked within large groups and captured stories of young people who typically be labelled as hard to reach. That includes my own personal story. I have determination to inspire and change mindsets and deliver the shared existing values that Access has through honesty, excellence, ambition, and respect.
So, what do we think, Dragons?
It's got legs. I think I'm buying it. I'm in.
I like it. It does have mileage and the ability to change many lives in the long term. The figures are up in the written plan. Yeah, I like what I see. I'm in.
Through our Youth Outreach United programme, I would like to offer you full-time employment within Access, so you can gain the experience and knowledge required to deliver your vision for Sunrise Studios as a social enterprise within our framework. Well done, and welcome to Access.
Thank you.
Gosh, well that was 3 years ago and we looked beautiful and young then, didn't we, Josh?
Yeah, I've grown the hair to go with it.
So what we did 3 years ago was we developed a Dragon's Den fund, which we had £20,000 in, which we'd allocated to support young people and social enterprise. As you can see, Joshua wowed us at Dragon's Den, and we used that £20,000 to employ Joshua for 1 year. After 3 years, I'm pleased to say Joshua brings in now more than £20,000 a year, which is very good. And what we'd like to do is have a new Dragon's Den fund. So this is a hard cash ask on behalf of Access Community Trust. Perhaps you'd like to consider in some of your bids social value in terms of money into our Dragon's Den fund, which will allow us to have more Joshuas, which would be great.
Another way to support us is to sponsor another service like Pink Orange.
Pink Orange is a unique service currently operated by the Access Community Trust across Norfolk this winter. The that provides free ingredient kits to families with school-aged children that need a little more extra support right now. Every kit contains the exact ingredients needed to cook 4 family meals from scratch. Boxes contain more than just food. There's recipe cards, access to video content, support leaflets, and sometimes some special surprises too. Each kit is then delivered directly to doors of young people like us, so we can learn to cook and enjoy homemade meals of our household. It's easy to sign up. All you need to do is visit pinkorange.co.uk and fill in a simple form.
Hello, my name's Simon. I'm the Skills Development Lead here at Access Community Trust. Our commitment to social value includes supporting our communities. Here in Lowestoft, we've merged 2 local charities into the Access family, which includes Lowestoft Over 60s Club and Sold, which is a project that supports people with learning disabilities. We also do things like open mental health cafes, which recently included Bury and Ipswich Steam House cafes.
So the STEAM cafes are a space for people to come and to seek the support that they need to help them to regulate and to manage their emotional well-being and mental health. So it's a supportive space and people can have one-to-one support, seek advice and guidance, signposting to other services, and also have the opportunity to take part in workshops and groups and connect and meet other people who might be experiencing something similar.
So being on the high street, I think smashes the stigma straight away. We're not hiding in the back alley. We're trying not to hide away, because mental health, everyone suffers with mental health, and mental health is a continuum. You have positive mental health or you have bad mental health. Everyone has a mental health, which is about how we manage it. And I think having us here on town breaks that, so that no one feels like we're hiding, thinking mental health is a scary thing, where we're trying to encourage people to speak about mental health and encourage them to try and get support what they need.
Hello, me again for a quick little cheeky plug. So one of the things that we do within Sunrise Studios is offer commercial services. So I'm actually a fully licensed and insured drone pilot, and I can do aerial videography or photography, and we also do general film and photography of any nature, whatever your requirement is. There's going to be a quick show reel after this, and with my phone number at the end. Please do get in touch.
Right, perfect. Thank you, Anthony. And I think, yes, so that's the end of the Access Community Trust presentation. Right, we'll address the elephant in the room. Apologies, everyone. As technology goes, for one of our webinars, today has been a challenge. But I appreciate, for a number of you who held fire with us and carried on, needless to say, when we put this onto our website afterwards, where you can revisit anything, we will be doing some very clever editing to make this look as seamless as all the other ones have been. No idea what happened, but there we go. So we've had a couple of questions. Obviously, if anyone else has any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. And we'll attempt to address them. Just a couple of notes on what you heard today. I know Jack spoke earlier about the minimum 10% on weighting around social value. Now, what's key within that, and why we encourage businesses to sign up for our portal so much, is that minimum is there to say, okay, there is a focus on social value, but the project will score higher than 10% on areas of social value, be that the local supply chain, be that on net zero, where they deem it's suitable and relevant. And our role within that is to help the project understand the local capability for certain packages of work. So they approach us saying they want to do something to do with Sizewell. And we give them a list of 50 firms that could do the job with their eyes shut, that are already delivering fantastic social value, working with Access and Inspire, for example, that are based in Suffolk, Norfolk, or the surrounding counties. And that gives the procurement teams at Sizewell the confidence to know, well, we can weight this much higher than 10%. We should be promoting this much higher than 10% because there is local capability to supply. So this is why we push and say to businesses, please sign up on our portal. Update your portal regularly so that we can understand the capability locally and ultimately ask Sizewell to score much higher than 10%. So it's very, very important throughout this. And of course, it was also mentioned quite a lot about reducing the environmental impact of Sizewell, and that's where innovation can come in. And we've already had lots of examples of businesses with innovative ideas that we've referred into Jack and his team. So again, if you're a business that's got a new way of doing something, be that to do with mental health and working with young people, or actually just to do with, you know, changing plant fuels away from diesel, different ways of approaching the design and delivery of a project like this, you know, get in touch with us, let us know those ideas, and we will support you trying to get into the project within new ways of doing things. I think Jack also touched on the 12 wider commitments to the community. And actually, there's the wider deed of obligation commitments that have now kicked in as of last Monday's announcement. We'll be doing some work soon to share what these are. And again, understand as businesses how you can tap into those opportunities, or at least be aware of them and how you can take advantage of them now they're coming into more broadly Suffolk and the region, but in particular in East Suffolk. And also the point about 900 operational staff at Sizewell is exciting, and the 750 odd at Sizewell B. But actually, also out of this, beyond construction, the opportunity for local businesses is about to grow much larger than it does at Sizewell B at the minute around outage workforce and contractor workforce, because we are going to have 3 reactors. Will broadly be a constant cycle of outage, which brings even more opportunity for local firms to be able to support. So whilst we're here talking about how we maximise the construction of Sizewell, actually the opportunity beyond construction is fantastic as well. Final thing I'll reference on before I go on a couple of the questions. Terry gave a great example where he referenced kind of creating a workforce using organisations like him. And we had an example of that recently. We held an event at Inspire in Suffolk. So we do various events where we go around, and sometimes sector specific, sometimes general networking. And at that event, the issue of resource was raised. You know, how we find the people to supply that sector to be able to supply Sizewell. And I used Inspire as an example. You know, we're in their building, and I said to these, I think it was about 16 businesses in the room, how many of you are engaged with Inspire? You have young people who have took the wrong direction or been forced into the wrong direction in life, and Inspire has helped bring them forward. That how many of you are engaged with the likes of Inspire to find a different pool of talent for resource shortage? And none of them were. So I think it is difficult out there. We hear this a lot as a chamber from businesses who are struggling to get the workforce they need, let alone with what Sizewell's bringing. And there'll be lots of things put in place to help this to happen. But actually, there's resource there straight away. Picking up the phone to Terry, to Antony, or some of the other organisations that are signed up on the portal that we can introduce you to means we can start making that change immediately, which is critical. Now, I think Terry kind of half-assed answered this on the chat. If you're available to come back on, Terry, because the question was kind of asked on the chat, would a partnership approach targeting key sectors work? And I think you kind of acknowledged it on the chat, but I don't know if you want to come on and answer that.
Okay, so yeah, no, it was great to get the request, and we're more than happy to work in partnership with any number of organisations. And you know, the strength of actually getting young people engaged into programs to help them develop their pathway is only strengthened by working with other organisations. And so we're delighted to do that. I've reached back out, and we will definitely follow up. And if anyone else is interested in actually getting in touch about taking the opportunity of working in partnership, we're more than ready. As I'm sure Antony is at Access as well.
Fantastic, thank you, Terry. And you know, I mentioned it earlier. We focus very much on the collaboration piece around the supply chain, and rightly so. That is a lot of our focus. But actually, just collaboration, full stop. Obviously, today we're talking about organisations such as Terry and Antony's, but it's the same conversation I have with the colleges and the universities. It's the same conversation some of our businesses were having at the DCO event last Monday on site with the likes of Ord Valley Academy who were there. how local businesses can partner with the most local school to Sizewell to really up the game and what we're trying to do. So vitally important, I think we work together. It is the way we'll get the best out of Sizewell. You know, being very selfish from a Suffolk perspective, you know, this is what we want to do, is get the most out of Sizewell. And then it also is a blueprint for all of the other projects that are in our neck of the woods that are coming this way. Again, I referenced the Energy Coast earlier, but we want them all to be delivering positive change, as well as ultimately delivering the energy transition that we all need. I know there was also a question, I think, earlier about the MOU with the social value partners. Is that available? Is Jack still on? Because I know Jack did say he might have to scoot. He is.
No,
Jack, is that actually an available document?
It's not something we've put in the public domain at the moment, really, mainly because I guess we've not asked the questions of all the signatories for permission. But I think I messaged back in the chat and said I'm more than happy to speak to individuals about the MOU if it's something they're interested in seeing a bit more of, see the kind of terms we've got in there. Yeah, more than happy. So please do put us in contact. I hope that message got back. I realise I might have just sent it back to you, Ashley, as a message rather than
No, sorry, actually, I've just now seen
okay,
it's on there. So thank you, Jack. And also, if you look on the Sizewell C website, there is links to all of the community pledges, the various aspects of the deed of obligation. So as I said earlier, we will share this stuff very soon through our avenues, but actually you can access a lot of this information already via the Sizewell C website and also through Google, etc. So there's not been many other questions. If any do pop up over the course of the next couple of minutes while I close up, then we will answer. And just as a reminder, so all of this webinar, once we've edited it down slightly, will go onto our website as part of the business support program link that's on there, with all of our other previous webinars and the future ones as well. Just as a quick kind of next steps piece, you know, consider today, as we always say, but actually really exciting at last, you know, the DCO has been triggered. The project has formally started. And I know for the last 2.5 years that I've been involved in the project, I get asked this an awful lot. Is it actually ever really going to happen, Ash? Is it real? And it is. And certainly I know on behalf of my team, we've been speaking to businesses a lot over the past year or so about getting ready, you know, now making some changes so that you're in the best place possible for when these opportunities come along. And this is it now. This is when it's going to start. It will still be a slow ramp up. Although, you know, things will accelerate at pace, we still have time to get businesses ready. The key is, you know, the support is there. Let us know what support you need, and we will do everything we possibly can to make sure you're in the best place possible. Just one question come through. I think it'll be important to share this doc as it can. Perfect. Yes. Joe, as mentioned, I'll pick this up with Jack separately. We'll see if there is an option to make sure that that document can be. I know the other MOUs that have been signed are out there, particularly around the supply chain stuff that we're working with. So we will find that out for you. I've also put a point on there, obviously stay up to date and engage with the portal. And I know a question was asked on this. So just to be clear, our portal, sizewellcsupplychain.co.uk, this is where you sign up and register your business. If you have previously registered, fantastic, thank you. Please make sure you revisit the portal and keep it up to date. As I mentioned earlier, down to a silly detail, as the more you tell us about you and what you're able to do, the more we're able to feed that information directly into Sizewell C to help them factor in how they're going to approach this project. It is a replication of Hinckley, but there are plenty parts of this project that are first of a kind or that are unique to Suffolk. So having that Suffolk or East input into how this is built, it is possible. They are listening and they want to understand what local businesses, local organisations can do and want to do. So please register there. There is loads and loads of information on there about the project, about what we're doing, particularly around support, things like this programme and other funding sources that are there. So lots of info on there, but it's also the best way to stay engaged with ourselves. What you've then also got is Compete For. Now, all opportunities on the project will be published via Compete For. So Compete For is a national portal, and the idea is this way: it keeps it transparent. Everyone can see what's going on. You'll see most recently there was the occupational health one went on there a few days ago, and there is, because of the triggering of the DCO, a raft of new ones about to appear very, very soon, particularly in the civils space. It is a place for those wanting to show interest or bid for work, but what it'll also become the place for is those that have won the work. So for a lot of local businesses, you know, you are unlikely to probably bid for a £50 million road scheme, but you're going to be interested to work for those contractors who are winning the work on that £50 million road scheme. So Compete For, as well as ourselves, will help you understand who they are, where they're winning work, and the ways in which to get in touch with them. So we do recommend all businesses still sign up for Compete For as well, even if you're unlikely to actually be bidding, because it is the place to get that direct information from the project on the opportunities that are coming, who has won them. And then for a lot of the tier 1 contractors who are selected, they will be mandated to also put their opportunities through Compete For subcontracting as well. So you've kind of got that direct official route through Compete For, with then the Chamber of Commerce trying as much as we can to provide that safety net for you to ensure you're aware of everything that's going on and where those opportunities are. And then, you know, keep up to date. So we will share these links. So you've got both the links to the website, some support videos, and we'll be doing some more of those soon, and also a link to the development consent order portal as well. You may have also received an email from me a little earlier explaining a few of the other bits and pieces that are happening now. So it's just vital to stay engaged with us, keep talking to us, and we're there, as I said earlier, to basically support you and get the most out of this project for you as local and regional businesses. On the subject of our support program, we've got 2 more that are just going live that will be on the website soon for you to book, and we'll email these out. On the 5th of March, we're going to be doing one alongside the Career and Transitions Partnership and HMP Hoseley Bay around supporting new pathways into your workforce. So particularly working with ex-offenders and those from ex-forces backgrounds, but also families of force personnel, and ways to get another route into work for different types of communities and groups. And then on the 22nd of March, we've got a webinar focused entirely on cybersecurity, why it matters to an energy security project, and why it's actually a critical consideration for you to have as part of your own planning, getting ready to bid for work and work on a project such as Sizewell. Now, I'm just going to make sure there's no other questions come through by the looks of things. Just going to make sure. No, people saying some lovely things, which is brilliant considering how it all went. So with that, I'll say thank you very much. As I say, within the next day or so, we will get this emailed out to you. This will be loaded onto our website, where if you haven't seen any of the previous ones, they are available now. So please do go back and look over some of our previous subject matters, such as net zero, biodiversity, and NEC contracts. And look forward to seeing you all very soon. Thank you.